Welcome to another episode of Make It Make Sense podcast with the Moon Group, season 2. And I have no other than this beautiful Miss Deidre Moon. Hey!
Hey, Kimmy, how are you?
I am wonderful. How about you?
I'm fantastic.
Okay, so I know who you are, but tell those people who you are.
Okay, so hey everyone, my name is Deidre Moon of the Moon Group. And if you don't remember all of that, just remember I am your auntie accountant, helping you deal with your Uncle Sam. Okay.
I love it. Okay, so we're jamming today, right? Are we talking taxes or taking it to the house?
Well, we're talking a little bit of both.
Okay.
We're talking about how your taxes get you into a house.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Might need to know about this one. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so per usual spiel, the T. Tell me more.
Okay, so what I have found through my many years of experience in the tax industry is that summertime is generally a time where people want to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
They want to put down some roots before the next school year.
Mm-hmm.
And so summertime is a very popular time to buy a home. And what generally happens is that someone might, meet the love of their life, their new boo thing.
Okay.
They meet their boo thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And they want to settle down and create some roots. And so you go to the chapel, you get your white dress on, you get all your friends and family there, and you say, I do. Well, then, of course, one of the next big steps can be, okay, we've said I do. Let's buy our first home together.
Okay. Let's get married. We got it going on now.
Yeah. And that's when you put the brakes on. Exactly. So very often what I see, Cammie, is that people come to me for tax help, and I'm happy to help them with that year round. Just so you and your listeners know, our firm is available year round, not just until April 15th. So they come into my office and they're super excited. They found the love of their life. They're ready to buy this home. And the lender says, let me see your tax return.
Uh-oh.
And then you hear the music going, dun, dun, dun.
You looking like,
oh. Right. You look like Home Alone, like. So what happens is that, now I'm going to be really candid with you, Cammie, as I always am, and our listeners. I'm going to be really candid.
Okay.
What I find is happening is that y'all be playing with them tax returns.
Okay.
Yes. People are putting anything on their tax returns. Sometimes it's fraudulent. Sometimes it's just not completely accurate.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that tax return will affect their home buying process. It does.
What you don't know will get you.
It will every single time, especially with Uncle Sam and the IRS, because though we all hate to hear this, right? We all, self-included, because I'm a taxpayer as well. So we all hate to hear that our tax dollars really help fund the country, from road work to schools to mortgages. Our tax dollars help fund all of those programs.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah. So, you do hear people always saying, I'm a taxpayer, the ones who we think are privileged, right? But at the end of the day, they're right. They're our tax dollars that we're paying.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's so interesting in our country that, unfortunately, we as an educational system, our country as an educational system, we don't, in my opinion, put enough effort into teaching us Americans about the tax code. And this is one thing that we all have to deal with our entire life. You know,
Yeah.
the moment you get your first job at Dairy Queen. What was your first job, Tammy?
Oh my Lord. I worked at Jim Danny's Chicken in Dallas, Texas.
You know what? We have that in common. My very first job was at a chicken place in Georgia. It was a little chicken place called Mrs. Winter's Chicken.
Oh, wow.
So we started out in chicken together. We didn't even know it.
Boy, there you go.
Okay, but I can remember at 16 getting my very first paycheck and it not being what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know I'm probably older than you, Cammie, and older than a lot of people. But at that time in the 80s, minimum wage was about $2.15 an hour.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine that? Right.
How can you live?
Minimum wage was $2.15. So, you know, I've always been really into numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm an accountant.
Mm-hmm.
Go figure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I can remember back when I was 16 and I worked my little 4-hour shift per day and I had 20 hours on my check. 20 hours at $2.15.
Oh,
I knew what I should be able to put into my bank account, but it wasn't. It was less. And right then I started to figure out, where is my money going? Because it wasn't coming to me.
Right.
So we have to begin to train the next generations about income tax requirements much earlier than I know my generation learned.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think that going back to the generation, they really didn't know much.
Right. That's
so they
true.
couldn't really instill in us because they didn't know a lot.
That is very true.
Going to college and to school and we ended up learning more than what they had because they barely had it.
That's very true. And it's very interesting because now I am not a first generation college graduate. My parents both are college graduates. But believe it or not, my mom, who is 74 years old, called me on Monday about a tax question that she didn't understand. So that just tells us that generationally, we weren't exposed to this information. And so now our generation and the generation after us are kind of the first ones who are really able to dig in and really understand what's happening. And I want to be a part of that movement.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, with the AI and everything that's going on, I feel like the younger generation is going to have it way, way better than us in a whole lot of different aspects.
Indeed. The fact that technology is in their hands all day long is great. They can go to their phones and Google something, and even IRS codes can be Googled. What I want the listeners to realize, though, is that we, the professionals, are here to help make it make sense for your particular situation. So I encourage everyone to do their research and then reach out to a professional to really make sure it applies to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Miss Deidre, okay, so now I'm married, and now we filing taxes with my husband. I'm gonna use
your husband,
my ex-husband. Well, but at the time, so I'm gonna use our skit to kind of play off of this one. Okay, so when I married my ex-husband, I'm not gonna say which ex-husband.
Dun dun dun.
My ex-husband on Christmas Eve.
Okay.
We got married on Christmas Eve, and sad to say that relationship did not work out.
Okay.
So when it was time to file taxes, I ended up owing, and I had the child. I ended up owing, but it was off of his taxes. He owed. I didn't owe. And I asked someone, I want to say it was someone from IRS, because I was just devastated. Because normally I would get like $3,000 or something like that for my kid. And I had 2 kids at this point, with this particular husband. I'm telling you who it is. And so, but they went after me. And the excuse that the lady gave me was because you were more stable. She said you were more stable and they could find me easily opposed to him.
Okay, so I'm certainly sorry to hear that marriage didn't work, unless that's what you want. If you didn't want it to work, okay. So here's something that's really interesting. When you are married, you have the option to file married filing jointly or married filing separately. And that is really something to consider and discuss with a professional based on your needs. Mm-hmm. When you file married filing jointly, the IRS will go after both of you or either one of you. It's called jointly and severally liable. So what that rep told you by saying you're easier to find than he is, I can believe that because, again, you're jointly and severally liable for that debt together. So for our newest newlyweds who are approaching the altar, I actually, and y'all don't throw tomatoes at me, okay? Don't throw tomatoes at me when I say this. But you know how when you are going to get married, sometimes you will go talk to your pastor. Mm-hmm. You may even have some marital counseling before you say I do. Mm-hmm. Talk to an accountant. Talk to a tax professional. No one thinks about how you are joining your life. That includes your finances. Yeah. So I often will talk to couples, and I'm very candid. I want to know, when was the last time you filed?
Right.
Are you current on your tax filings? Mm-hmm. Do you owe? Have you been?
That would be my first one.
Have you been ducking Uncle Sam? Mm-hmm. Because when you stand before God and all of your family and you say, I do, you're telling Uncle Sam you do as well. And Uncle Sam is very unforgiving. Yeah. He's very unforgiving. So if anyone is listening to this podcast and you're in the marriage pipeline, talk to an accountant. Please, please, please. I want you guys to get married and live happily ever after. I do. I believe in love. I do. But check that tax return.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go through some slides that Miss Deidre has gotten for us, and she's done her research. And man, let me tell you, she got a lot of stuff cooking. So we'll be back. Okay, if you just tuned in, you haven't tuned in too late, you tuned in to Make It Make Sense podcast with the Moon Group, and I have the very one and only Deidre Moon here, giving us some good insights and telling us what to do. A lot of applause. And giving us some insights on things that you really need to know. And so we were talking about taxes, being in a relationship, getting married, and now you got your big girl panties on now.
Indeed. Let's get into it, okay?
Let's do it.
Because I want our listeners to really understand the importance of your tax return in the home buying process and how it affects your power. So let's take a look at the first slide. All right. So here we are, Cammie. We already at the beginning of the show talked about how you met that boo Jane. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you went to the chapel in that white dress.
That's right.
And you stood
white, but okay.
You stood before God and all your family and friends and said, I do. All right.
I did.
Or one time, two times,
three. That was a charm.
Okay.
It wasn't a charm.
It wasn't. All right. So it is very common that people get married and then they want to buy a home. Mm-hmm. And so if you're in that pipeline, I really want to talk about how your tax return impacts your home buying process and power. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Let's go. Next slide. All right. So here are 3 amazing properties, right?
Yeah.
So what we're talking about today, it doesn't matter if you want to buy a single family home a townhouse, or a condo, if you are in the home buying pipeline, this is important to you. Okay. This is important because there's this guy. He's on the next slide.
Oh yeah, that guy.
Him.
Okay.
Him.
Did you marry him? Because I know you are aunt. And
I know. So there's this guy, and we know him as Uncle Sam. Okay. And as our listeners know, I am auntie accountant. So I am really focused on helping you manage this guy, Uncle Sam. Okay. And he can be a little unruly sometimes. Okay. A little. All right. Next slide. All right. So Uncle Sam is kind of symbolic of your 1040 tax return. Okay. Uncle Sam, the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, the feds, however you want to look at it, it all boils down to your 1040. And your 1040 tax return directly affects your home buying process. Oh, wow. Meaning, real quick, you guys, if you have not filed your tax return for the 2 most recent years, you are not prepared to buy a home. Really? Absolutely. Because the lender, immediately after they get your name and your date of birth, they're going to ask to see your tax return. That's right. Wow. That's right. Then they will check your credit. So
I would have thought credit was first.
Well, credit shows you the pattern in which you pay your bills, but your tax return shows if you got some money. And that's what they want to know. That makes sense. So if you have not filed your tax return for the 2 most recent years, you are going to have trouble with your home buying process. So let me make that make sense a little bit more. Make it make sense. Okay, so let's say, Kimmy, you want to buy a home this year, 2025. Okay, maybe it's a condo, maybe it's a townhouse, maybe it's a single family home, maybe it's even a duplex, You want to buy that here in 2025. Okay, your lender is going to ask for your 24 tax return and your 23 tax return. Oh, wow. Yeah, they do what's called a 2-year look back. So just remember, whatever year you want to buy, you have to have filed your 2 most recent tax returns. Oh, okay, so let's say you decide to wait until after the holidays. Christmas is too busy. And so right at the top of 26, you're ready to buy. You're going to need to provide your 25 and your 24. Wow. Right. So I encourage everybody. Now, this is just my professional opinion. Certainly seek out professional advice for your situation. But buying in January is always going to be difficult because the lender will want to see your tax return from the most previous year. You haven't even done it yet. I get it. Yes. So don't go out there and fall in love with the house and want it now, and you haven't even done your tax return yet. Right. You're going to run into trouble. So save yourself a little bit of that heartache. But bottom line, know that your 1040 directly affects your home buying process and your power. Okay? Yeah. So next slide. All right. Your tax return matters. And what I want our listeners to know, Cammie, is that many of our listeners, especially those who work with the Moon Group, are business owners, right? Now, I'm going to be real candid, as I always am. And we have had a conversation before about being bootleg. Right. We have now. Some of y'all be out there bootlegging. Some of y'all don't have your paperwork in order. You have not done bookkeeping. You have not filed your business income. All of that matters to Uncle Sam, and particularly in the home buying process. So when I say make sure you have filed your tax returns properly, I am referring to your individual, which includes your business. So you as a person and your company. All of that matters together. So you guys, Now, y'all know that I'm a little old, and I was a fan of the show In Living Color back in the 90s, right? Okay. There was a segment where there were two homeboys in the alley, and their segment was more money, more money, more money. Mm-hmm. They were selling some of everything out of the trunk of a car, okay, in the alley. Now, the reason why I'm bringing that up, Cammie, is because who you choose to assist you with your tax return matters. Yes. Y'all, yes. Don't be in a back alley with somebody in his trunk talking about more money, more money, more money, because it's going to severely impact your ability to buy your home. Okay? All right, so it matters, you guys. All right, next slide. All right. You're probably looking at this slide and you're going, what in the world is all of that? What is that? Well, for those of you who are business owners, the very first picture is a picture of your EIN letter. Yes. Okay. Now, a couple of years ago on social media, everybody was telling you, go get your LLC, go get an EIN number, go do this, go do that. And those things are valid. However, there has to be some support behind those suggestions. Just going to get your EIN number can be a little tricky if you don't know what EIN number to ask for. Right. And again, Uncle Sam is kind of unforgiving. So if you ask for an EIN that has a filing requirement other than April 15th, did you know there were other tax deadlines, Cammie? No. Yes, there are. April 15th is not the only deadline, and your EIN letter tells you what your deadline is. Wow. Right. So what happens is that people go get these EIN letters, they don't know exactly what it means, and they miss the filing requirement. Listen, Uncle Sam hands out penalties. Ooh. like dinner mints. Oh my goodness. Only one who goes to, I think it's Olive Garden, and they give you the little chocolate mints at the end. I always want more than one. Yeah, I might want. I might want like 3 or 4 or 5 of them. That's how Uncle Sam hands out penalties. Oh wow! As frequently as you want those mints, he passes out penalties that way as well. Oh wow! So I said that to say, just make sure if you are requesting an EIN number, you know which tax return that goes on and when that tax return is due, because not all of them are due on April 15th. Right. Yep. You know, I discovered with this, I got a letter from the city of Virginia Beach. Okay. And they were asking for, and I'm like, didn't we just do this? How many times do they actually do? Okay. Taxes? Okay. So, and you know, Cammie, when you say the word taxes, there are so many taxes that we as individuals and we as businesses have to pay. So the first thing I like to do when I speak with a client is to really identify which taxes are you referring to. Okay. So you specifically said the city. Okay. Well, there's a difference between if you provide a service like we're doing here, or if you provide a product. So let's say, for instance, and I'm going to use this example because so many of our young ladies, they have hair bundle business. They sell the bundles for the hair, right? So the bundles are a product versus what we're doing here today is the service. There's nothing physical that I receive from you or that you receive from me. We are providing a service. Bundles is a product. So bundles have certain product taxes that have to be paid monthly and quarterly to the city. Then you also have state tax requirements that happen quarterly and biannually. And then you have federal requirements that also happen quarterly and annually. Oh, wow. So your question is really loaded, Cammie, and I can't answer it specifically, but I tell all business owners, speak with a professional. It certainly can be me and my firm. That's right. But if not the Moon Group, just get some professional help, because the IRS, the state of Virginia, the city of Virginia Beach is very unforgiving. And they hand out those penalties like mint.
Yes, they do.
All right, next slide, please. All right, so very often, as I mentioned, on social media, you'll hear somebody say, oh, let me go get my LLC. You know, y'all, listen.
Linda.
Listen, Linda. So I know that there are tons of great influencers on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. Mm-hmm. Tons of them. And then there are some that are not as knowledgeable. So guys, I know you hear, go get your LLC. And that's fine. That is fine. I just want you to have the background to know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
So your LLC is a protection at the state level. So let's give an example. Let's say you're selling bundles, okay? And you have the best Peruvian,
Brazilian flow
ever. Okay, what are the girls wearing now? Like 27 inches or something like that? Okay, you have the best 27-inch ever. Okay, so someone buys it from you, they get it installed, mm-hmm. and their hair begins to really itch and feel very irritated. Yeah. And there's some burning on the scalp. And, you know, in the words of Beyonce, you're patting your weave, baby. You're patting your weave because it's itchy and it's aggravated.
Yes.
And you get to the point where you've got to take this stuff out. Well, number one, you're upset because you probably just paid $600 or $700 to get it installed. Mm-hmm. You probably paid $600 or $700 for the hair. Mm-hmm. And then now your scalp is aggravated.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to the emergency room. They're giving you some topical cream. You now have an emergency room bill of $1,200.
Mm-hmm. On top of it all.
On top of it all. Okay. So now you are upset.
You think?
Or as my grandmother used to say, you're upset. Upset. You are upset. And now you want to sue the person who you bought that hair from. You want to sue that person.
Yeah.
Well, if that person has organized their business as an LLC, you cannot sue them personally. You can only sue the business.
Okay.
So that's what the LLC does for you. It provides protection at the state level. So it protects you from the activities of the business, which is great. Yeah. We should all have that. However, the federal government considers an LLC as what's called a disregarded entity. Disregarded entity. I'm going to break that down for you guys. What that means is Uncle Sam don't care nothing about no LLC. Uncle Sam don't care nothing about no LLC. It is called a disregarded entity. So everything that transpired within the LLC rolls to you personally. Okay, so that's very important. And again, you guys really need to speak with a professional. Y'all, please do not keep DIYing this stuff.
Yeah.
Because when you come to Auntie Accountant and you have these bills from Uncle Sam where you owe $20,000 and $30,000, I'm gonna help you, but it's gonna cost you.
Yep.
So let's just get it right
the first
before we get it wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Next slide, please. All right. So let's look directly at the tax return. When you look at your tax return, page 1 of your 1040, all of the numbers are important, but particularly for home buying, you want to look at your adjusted gross income, which is on line number 11. That number is your buying power. Okay, let me tell you what that means. So what happens is the lender will do a 2-year average of your 2 tax returns. You know, as I said, 23, 24 or 24, 25. Okay. So let's just say that your average of line 11 for 2 years is $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The average on line 11 for 2 years is $50,000. When you go to your lender is going to look at that AGI, line number 11, 2-year average, and they're going to multiply that number by about 6. Okay? So again, the average is 50,000. Multiply that by 6. You now qualify from an income perspective for a home up to $300,000.
Gotcha.
Okay. That AGI is your buying power.
Mm.
And some lenders would even multiply it by 6.5. So you may even have more. Now, Cammie, you might be thinking, wait a minute. If my AGI is 50,000, these people gonna loan me 300,000? And the answer is yes.
Wow.
That's how it works. That's exactly how it works.
So it's important.
It's very important to know what your AGI is on a 2-year average. Multiply that number by 6, and that's about what you can qualify for. So I'm going to give you some homework, Cammie. You don't have to do it right now, but I want you to do it in your off time and tell me what you come up with.
Okay.
So I want you to take the 50,000 average that we're working with, multiply it by 6. That gives you $300,000, right?
Right.
I want you to Google homes for sale in your favorite zip code.
Okay.
And see what your $300,000 can buy you.
Ooh.
Right? Right?
Homework.
I do that, Cammie, because very often we don't know our buying power. You know, we might be thinking, I'm only making $50,000 a year. No one's going to loan me any money, but they absolutely are. So if you're interested in being a homeowner, and I understand home ownership is not for everyone.
Right.
But if this is for you, take that AGI, do a 2-year average, multiply it by 6, and then Google homes for sale in your favorite zip code.
Ooh.
And if you need help with that, of course, the Moon Group is available year-round to help you make it make sense.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. All right. Next slide. So, what I want you guys to remember is how you present your tax return matters. Yep. How you present your tax return matters. And you can go to somebody who is not experienced, like the guys in the alley. Talk about more money. Or you can come to a real professional who can help you see how your tax return can get you into the home of your dreams. So you can get with this, or you can get with that.
But I'd rather you do this.
Because this is where it's at. Bottom line is, you guys, your 1040 matters. Last slide, please. Next slide. And if any of this resonates with you, one more. Go back one, please.
There you go.
If any of this resonates with you, if you've been thinking about home ownership and thinking you were nowhere near because your income isn't a bazillion dollars, I encourage you to text my office. Yes, you can text us. Text the word house to 833-864-1040.
I love it.
Text house to 833-864-1040, and one of my team members will get in touch with you so we can help you make it make sense.
I love it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I feel so empowered.
We know some stuff around here.
Up in here.
Deidre,
it is so good to have you. I mean, I look forward to every first of the month because I know we're going to get some good, juicy stuff.
Thank you, Cammie. Thank you guys for joining us. If you are in that marriage pipeline, ask for the tax return right after you get the ring.
It doesn't matter. Marriage 1, 2, or 3, okay? Just make it make sense. How about that?
Indeed.
All right. Until next time, right here, SKST Radio, the Moon Group, make it make sense.
See you next time.
Bye.